How's it going, everyone? A lot of you guys are probably looking to re-up your PlayStation Plus subscription this month. I don't know if a lot is a little bit of a stretch. Obviously, some of you guys are on my side with a little bit of the vitriol I've spewed towards Plus Premium and Extra, and some of you guys are still like, you know, it's still a great value, but it is going to be discounted this month. And as I've said before, Plus Extra in totality is still a good value. It's just the price increase didn't lead to a value proposition increase, and the price increase was pretty egregious. So with that out of the way, there are still a ton of games on Plus Extra that I would highly recommend you to play. And in this video, I do want to highlight 10 titles that you should play in November. Now, the Plus Extra monthly refresh should be officially revealed tomorrow. Remember that Teardown will be one of the major titles and a day one launch title with Plus Extra as well, so that's quite nice, but some existing titles in the service that I would recommend you to play. Let's kick off with a couple of titles that were added in October. First of all, Gotham Knights. Oh baby, some of you guys are gonna be like, bro, how can you recommend to play this game? Well, I actually did a full review of Gotham Knights last year after completing the game with Nightwing, and I enjoyed aspects of Gotham Knights. There's a lot to like in the game, but I was very much vocal about the fact that if you price a game at $70, you have to reach a certain expectation threshold, and Gotham Knights absolutely did not hit that. If you compare it to the existing Batman Arkham trilogy, which was just the natural comparison point, even though this is done by a different studio, it's not Rocksteady, it's WB Montreal, who worked on Arkham Origins. But still, that was the natural comparison point people were going to make, and Gotham Knights is not at the level of the Arkham trilogy. However, it's still a good game. It's got a lot of replayability with the 4 different characters in Nightwing, Robin, Batgirl, and Red Hood. Story's pretty interesting. You've got a decent bit of content in the open world. I didn't find the open world to be too overwhelming either. I would say as a part of a subscription service, it's a pretty good playthrough. It's not super lengthy either. I would recommend it, and I'm not the biggest DC guy or anything like that, and I still certainly had fun with it, and it's the perfect kind of a game to play when it's on a subscription service like this, or very, very cheap. In this case, a subscription service, so I would recommend you to play that. Next up, Disco Elysium. This is a game that I am a homer for. I seem to always recommend it. Now, let's be honest, this isn't a game for everybody. I understand that there's going to be a large amount of people that will play this game, and this will not resonate with them. You probably will have an idea if it's going to click with you or not within the first couple of hours of the game. It is a slower-paced, more methodical game, very much driven by its choice-making and decision-making. It's inherently very replayable. The art style, the aesthetics, I think that those elements of the game are incredibly strong. If you're a fan of narrative-driven titles, I think Disco Elysium has some of the best writing in gaming ever. So from that standpoint, it's very much worthwhile to play through. Unfortunate how things went down with the developers and the publisher. I don't know the ins and outs of the entire story, but you know, it is what it is. The game itself is still tremendous, and I recommend you to play it. Next up, gotta give RGG some love. Judgment. Obviously, this is a must-play game. Now, RGG is a studio that a lot of you guys haven't even jumped into their games, and there's a lot of talk on what you should start with as far as playing their games. Yakuza 0 seems to be the general consensus on which one to start with. I personally really like Judgment, especially if you're of the mindset that, look, yes, you can start off with Yakuza 0, and that'll kick off the story of Kazuma Kiryu, and you can go through all of that. That is a daunting, daunting undertaking when you look at 0, Kiwami, Kiwami 2, Yakuza 3, 4, 5, 6, Like a Dragon with Infinite Wealth, obviously, Kiryu making a comeback, and we just had Like a Dragon Gaiden as well. Judgment is its own contained story that you can play, have a great time with, has a great main character, visually looks good, and the English voice acting is really good. Now, I know some people are going to be like, blasphemy playing these games with English voice acting. Like, you know what? Man, people do whatever the hell they want to do. If you want to play Judgment with English voice acting, I'm going to say go ahead and do it, because I think the English voice acting in this game is pretty damn good. The soundtrack is great. The theme song is awesome. Can't say enough good things about Judgment. Lengthy game, of course, but if you do rush through the story mode, or the main campaign, like, you can beat it, not relatively quickly, but quicker than the arduous undertaking that, you know, going for the 100% would be. But yeah, definitely recommend that, even to a newcomer to the RGG titles, and in fact, I think it's a great place to start the RGG experience, and then you can play Lost Judgment as well. Next up, Killzone Shadowfall. Killzone Shadowfall was, of course, a PS4 launch title and was really the standard setter in terms of technical prowess for that generation of gaming. You could look at Killzone Shadowfall, and in fact, you could look at Rise Son of Rome. I enjoyed Killzone Shadowfall. Now, you guys know me. I love Killzone. It seems like every other video I'm talking about the potential of a Killzone 2 remaster, and we'll probably never get that, but Killzone Shadowfall had stuff to like. At this point, you're playing the game for the single-player campaign, and I thought the campaign was well done. Visually, it still looks incredible. We are a decade removed from the release of Killzone Shadowfall. Boot this game up and tell me that it's still not one of the best-looking games that you can come across. It looks fantastic, even a decade later. Sure, it's not going to be the groundbreaking technical achievement that it was in 2013, but I still think it's a worthwhile playthrough. Interesting story here as well. Nice for a single playthrough, a shorter game as well, so I definitely give that a look. Next up, for those of you that are picking up a PlayStation 5 and you're getting Plus Extra along with it, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart obviously is a game that I strongly recommend. This, from a value standpoint, is one of the best offerings on Plus as a whole. Like this, and really like the FF7 remake, I think are some of the best, and Horizon Forbidden West, of course, but Rift Apart is a great game. I know that there's a lot of games to play during this season, and Rift Apart is a shorter game that you can complete in 10 to 14 hours, get the Platinum Trophy. It's a great game. I like the inclusion of Rivet. I thought that added a nice little layer to the Ratchet & Clank, the typical Ratchet & Clank narrative. We'll see, you know, if Insomniac decides to go back to Ratchet. I know they're fully immersed into their Marvel titles, and, you know, I can, it's easy to tell why. Those games are going to sell incredibly well, and as much as I love Ratchet, like, Ratchet's probably not going to do for them and Sony what the Marvel games are going to do, but I hope somebody picks up the reins with the Ratchet titles because it's a great IP, and it would suck to see it go to the wayside for, you know, however long. I know we got Ratchet 2016, but outside of that, like, Rift Apart was the first entry since, like, Ratchet All for One, and that was 2012, so it would suck to see the franchise, you know, go to the wayside for a lot longer again, but, you know, what can you do? It's not a moneymaker for them, I guess, but I still love Ratchet, and Rift Apart is certainly a must-play title. Next up, want to give a shout out to Final Fantasy Type 0 HD. Now, you gotta keep your expectations in line with this game. Type 0 was initially a PlayStation Portable game that was an exclusive release to Japan only. It never came stateside until 2015, where they decided, hey, we can bring this game stateside and we can bundle in the Final Fantasy 15 episode Duske demo, charge $60 for it, and people will check it out just for the 15 demo. And you know what? It had that total crackdown with Halo 3 effect, and people picked up Type 0, but you know, a lot of people never even played Type 0. At this point, that's a little bit of a story that people forget about. But Type 0 itself is a pretty good playthrough. Visually, it's not a blow-away game by any stretch of the imagination, but it's got an interesting setting. The gameplay is pretty decent, and I would say, you know, go check it out. It's one of those Final Fantasy games that is forgotten about, but I still had a good time with it back in 2015. Next up, we have Detroit Become Human, a game that I often recommend. Another game that is very much emphasized by its narrative and storytelling. You know what to expect out of a Quantic Dream title. If you played Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, Indigo Prophecy, they're not action-oriented games. They're very much focused on telling an incredibly compelling narrative, but Detroit Become Human does a great job at that. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, this is another one that I would check out. Choice-driven, and as I always say with Quantic Dream titles, play these games without a guide or anything like that, because, you know, at least for your first playthrough, because that's when the choices have legitimate consequences and you kind of have to deal with that. That's how I always view, you know, just these story-based games with severe decision-making to, you know, the best way to play them. If you disagree, more power to you, but that's my opinion. Next up, Control Ultimate Edition. This is a part of Plus Extra and certainly a game that I would recommend you to play. In my opinion, Control is Remedy's best outing. I did like Control better than Alan Wake 2. However, if I objectively assess Alan Wake 2 and Control, yeah, Alan Wake 2 is probably the better game. I just like the design of Control a little bit more. The game is great. I thought from a gameplay standpoint it was great. Still had that, you know, trippy Remedy-style storytelling that can be confusing but comes together quite nicely. The Ultimate Edition has the DLC, runs great on the PS5 as well, so that's quite good. Next up, gotta give a shout to Concrete Genie, which is a super underrated game that came out on PlayStation 4 exclusively back in 2019. Great visual style, great aesthetic here, a pretty charming scenery, and interesting story as well, where you have this magic paintbrush and you have this desolate town and you try to bring life back to it. It's an interesting game and definitely an accessible game, I think, to any audiences. It was already a budget title when it came out and I thought it was worth it at that price point, but for now, you know, on Plus Extra, definitely a worthwhile game to check out as a part of a subscription service. And lastly, for those of you that like action platformers, Mega Man fans, Gunvolt Chronicles Luminous Adventure IX is available over on Plus Extra. A shorter game, but that Mega Man style action platformer, chaotic gameplay, anime aesthetic, so to speak. These games have been really well done, and yeah, it would be advantageous for you to play Azure Strike or Gunvolt, but you know, you can play Gunvolt Chronicles and still have a pretty good time, so check it out. Fairly short game, and yeah, you'll get your time well spent with this one. But that'll do it for me. Again, Plus Extra will be getting its refresh tomorrow. The discount should be going live November 17th, and I'm sure we'll be talking about Plus a lot in the coming weeks because a lot of emphasis on it with the discount and a lot of people signing back up. But that'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.